In today's video we'll be looking at how we can use Drift to generate gritty and grainy tones, and also for Drift to generate these randomly for us so that we can select ones we like and save them as presets. First of all, we'll have a quick listen to one example, then I'll show you how the rack works, and finally how you can build this rack if you're interested. So at the heart of it is an instance of Drift which has been constrained using mapping to generate these sort of gritty, as I say, gritty and grainy tones. We have a control here for texture, noise gain, we can turn noise on and off, we have control over the oscillator shapes, the shape of oscillator 1, the modulation shape, some detune, the filter settings, envelopes, and some modulation for the low pass. And the way the instrument is set up, if we look at the texture here, we open up the texture, maybe turn this up a little bit. If we open up the texture, we start to introduce various random elements to the pitch and to other parts of the instrument. I'll show you here, we'll open it all the way up, and we can see here that we're modulating the pitch with the LFO. The LFO is set to a sample and hold, effectively a random wave shape. Has a very high rate for the LFO, or at least in hertz. You can go faster with these settings. We have it set to the maximum 1.7. We're also introducing some modulation into this shape as well here. If I show you that, you'll see these values. And Drift has its own drift random function. This is also introduced, but I've constrained it to certain values. Here we can see on the pitch modulation we're effectively only 10%, very small amount, just to give it that sort of radio feel, that crunchy feel. Here you can only go up to 20, and here we can only modulate 20. So some small settings to get this effect. But I'll go more into the build on this. That introduces texture. Another way we can introduce texture here is this LP mod, which I introduce. Also adds a small amount of modulation here using envelope 2 to the frequency, filter frequency. So that's the second source of modulation. You can hear in the tone it's starting to break down and sound more sort of lo-fi and texturified, if that's a word. And the rest is quite easy. We have an option here to turn noise on. So if we have a setting above 64, we activate the noise oscillator here, and then once again we can introduce noise, but only in a controlled amount. I think it goes only to -10 here. So we don't introduce a large amount. The key to this rack is that everything's done in a little bit of moderation, just to get it the right kind of feel, hopefully. So there's the noise we can introduce. These ones just control oscillator shape, nothing special, but are useful. Here we're controlling the shape function here. When we activate the random to generate presets for ourselves. Here we have the wave, oscillator 2, oscillator 2 detune we can introduce a little bit as well, very small amount, 10 cents. What else do we have here? The octave on oscillator 2 here has a range of -1, 0, so we can introduce a lower octave if we want. And then attack, decay, sustain, release, well that's just our envelopes. We can have snappy or pads, whatever. And then we have the low pass is restricted as well. I'll come to this in the build, but we can only go down to 600 Hertz here, and on the high pass we can bring that up to 500, so we always have 500, 600, a range of 100 Hertz is always audible. And using these values we can again get some more character to the sound. Finally we have the resonance, which I'll come to in the build. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's how these kind of tones are generated. I'm going to be brave now and press the random button, see what happens. I don't know what tone will come out, but we'll see what we get. Sometimes you'll get more pad-like effect, sometimes we'll get... Turn the sustain up a bit. Let's try this here. I can't remember what I had on here. Oh yes, more of a little melody. There you go. So you can, once you've randomized, you can save here, save it as a drift preset. As one of my viewers commented on a previous video, you can then use these in Move and other Ableton products. Okay, so you can break it down with texture. If you want more frequencies. Turn on the noise to get the sound you want. As I say, play around, randomize, find what you like, save them here as presets, and off you go. Let's have a look how it's put together. It's quite simple, it shouldn't take too long. So the build on this one is quite simple. It's just really the settings, the constraints. You're going to need an instrument rack, which you find here, instrument racks, just drop it in. It will be, as always, presented with something like this with just different names, macro 1, macro 2, macro 3. I've kept my original names to speed the video up. You can expand here to the 16 macros with this button. We'll need an instance of drift, which will drop in. And then a few things we need to set up in drift before we get going. This I've deactivated to 0 so we don't modulate that. The volume here I've also changed to -6 so that it matches oscillator 1. We have this, we're going to modulate, that's okay. Let's just have a look here. That's okay, envelope 2. We have to set up our LFO. We'll put that to 1.7 kilohertz. Change this to sample and hold, and click this little R here for re-trigger. We will use the LFO to modulate itself, so we activate that there. Just have a look if there's anything else we need. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, the filter type, I had it on type 2. It's your choice if you want to use type 1 or type 2, but I went for type 2. Just having a look. I think that's everything. So we just need to do a little bit of mapping now. So open this up to texture. We need to map here this drift function, which is Ableton's random function in drift. We'll map that. We also need to map this LFO value here. pitch modulation, and finally I believe we have the final one is the LFO modulation amount here. We map that as well to it. Then we have the noise gain, which is simply this noise. Noise on is this N here, click that. Above 64 the noise is activated, below it's turned off. Oscillator 1 wave, the wave shape. And then the shape of that shape here, which you can modulate here, but we won't, we'll just choose random values here. Oscillator 2 octave, it's this here. Map that, the wave. And finally the detune here. Then we have the filter mappings, the high pass frequency here. The low pass, this one here, and then the low pass resonance, this one here. And finally I've mapped these two envelopes to the same controls, so attack here, decay here, sustain and release, and this then repeats itself here, attack, also on attack, decay, decay, sustain, sustain. So they're both mapped, these two envelopes are mapped to the same control, same macro controls. And then the last one we have is the low pass modulation, which is this value here for envelope 2 down here, which we'll also map. Right, so now we just need to set our constraints. I'll make a screenshot of this at the end of the video, so you can, if you want to build this, you can just go to the end of the video and get the constraints, but let's put them in now. For the modulation amount, it's -20 to 20. For the texture pitch modulation, this is 0 to 10. This is this value here, the modulation of the pitch. So just if you have too much, then you can hear the changing pitch. But if you use a very high rate of LFO and a small amount, then you get more of a noise effect, effectively. Then we have the drift here, which is this here. I set this maximum 20 and a minimum of 10. These don't change. This doesn't change. The oscillator to octave here, this we set to -1 and 0 for the random function. The detune is also this detune here. It's also a very small amount, 0.1. Oscillator shape doesn't change. Noise on. The noise gain I've limited to -10 decibels, and the resonance I've reduced to 0.85 because we'll be using the random, but you can use the random function. I just want to avoid the high resonance values. The low pass frequency goes down to 600 Hertz, and the low pass modulation amount -20 plus 20. This is this value here from the envelope. And finally the high pass frequency has a maximum value of 500 Hertz. These I've kept the same. This one I've reduced to 30 seconds. If you wanted longer attacks, you could leave those at 60 seconds, but I got a bit bored waiting sometimes, so I reduced those to 30. So anyway, that's all set up. If we randomize now, if we're lucky, turn on sound, we might get something. I don't know what it's going to play. Let's try another one. So you'll get a mixture of pads and snappier tones. See if everything works. Seems okay. Okay, as I say, have a go, try and make use of this. You save here the presets, any presets you like. You save here the rack, which will appear in your user library under presets, instruments, and it's in there, you'll find it. Have fun, enjoy the rest of your day. See you in the next one, hopefully. Thanks for watching.